Hello, 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 hello. You are once again welcome on The Teacher. We thank you so much for always being there, watching us, and letting us know how you feel about this program. Without you, this program wouldn't go anywhere. So we do appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for always telling us how you feel about this and even giving us topics to discuss. God richly bless you. Today we're going to discuss a very interesting topic, and so I wouldn't want to go there because it's a no-go area for me. And so I'm going to ask the teacher to introduce her to the topic. Please stay along and let's all learn one or two as we listen. So hello, teacher.
Hi.
You're welcome
Thank
to
you.
the program.
Thank you.
What have you got for us today?
Right, today on The Teacher, we have the privilege of hosting a discussion
Oh, okay.
on a very delicate topic.
Yes.
And this is the topic of sex and the church. Why is the church silent about this topic? And then the second part will be, when should the youth learn about the topic of sex?
Ooh.
Is it before the marriage or in the marriage? So, as you can see, it's a very delicate topic.
It's a no-go area, you know.
And we give glory to God for giving us able, competent men and a woman of God, very educated professionals, and filled with the Holy Spirit, to discuss this topic together with us. And these, I will just call their name, but our moderator, in the person of Miss Nelly Sapon, she has masters in law and she works with the Ghana Embassy here in Berlin. She, being the moderator, will properly introduce our panelists. But for now, let me give you their names. Mrs. Mercy De Souza, a woman of God, very competent. She has really mentored and trained a lot of youth around the world.
Okay.
We also have Reverend Simon Ampofo of Gracefields Chapel. In fact, he's a very heavyweight in the things of God. And then also we have Professor Kwesi Preko of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. So you can see we have really able people, by the grace of God, to tackle this topic. And again, we have audience joining from the US, joining from Berlin, and joining from Ghana. A lot of audience are already seated behind the camera, and some will also be joining us as we go on. So please stay tuned and enjoy. God bless you.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you so much. Like I always say, please share the videos so that somebody else's life will be blessed. As you can see, it's going to be very hot, and I just can't wait to get into the discussion. So please, let's get into the program as you watch along. God bless you.
God bless you.
Sex. The church should educate the youth on sex, which includes, when I say sex outside of marriage, I'll say it includes masturbation, premarital sex, on sexuality, homosexuality, and all that goes with it. So basically, this is what I'll say briefly, and I would wait for questions.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Even with this short presentation, I've got a few things that are very important, just about how generationally it's been we've been made to think about sex, that when something is on TV and the sex, you have to cover your eyes, or your mother will put a hand over your eyes, and how important it is for us to really speak about sex in the church and in schools and everywhere. Mrs. D'Souza talked about not just with people who are about to get married, or people, yes, but with people who are married, people who are in our schools and everywhere. It's so important. So thank you very much, Mrs. D'Souza. And we will, please, if there are any questions for Mrs. D'Souza, don't hesitate to put it in the chat, and then after that, she will definitely address it. So the next person that we are privileged to have talk about the topic of sex in the church and why the church doesn't talk about it is Professor Tracy Purple, who is I hope I pronounce this properly, a hydrogeophysicist, and he's in the Department of Physics in KNUST, my alma mater. So I'm very, very happy that he's here. The co-founder of All Christian Believers Fellowship in Karlsruhe, Germany, and the former Dean, Faculty of Physical and Computational Sciences, KNUST Kumasi, the presiding elder, English Assembly, the Church of Pentecost, Tikrum Kumasi, where I'm also from again. So I am so psyched to hear what Professor Perko has for us. So please, Professor Perko, please take the floor. I hope you are here and you can hear me.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, please.
And I've muted, and I believe that everybody can hear.
Yes, please, very clearly.
Yeah, thank you very much for the audience. The church and sex. Why is the church silent on sex? So my sister has begun it nicely. So let me say a few things about it. In the first place, the things that are involved in the sex, we are calling them private parts. So when things are private, nobody goes into it. It's as simple as that. For example, when you're going to visit the lavatory, you said, I'm going to private. And then it has never been the case that you're going to visit the lavatory and then maybe your husband is going with you to help you out. Or another person is going to help you out because it's called private. So when we take the parts involved in sex, we call them private parts. So obviously, people do not want to engage in that thing. If the parts were called public parts, then people might be getting into it. So this is the first point that I want to say. And then another thing that, in order not to speak too long, I will give only 3 points. And then as time goes on, when opportunity comes, then I'll say more. The church often pretends that we are okay. There's not a single person, pastor, elder, member, apostle, evangelist, who has a problem with sex. The pastor will not come to church and then say that I'm having a problem with sex. I'm having erectile dysfunction, please pray for me. It will never happen. We will pray for the sick. Those who need financial breakthrough, we will pray. But it is difficult for the pastor or another person to come to church and say, please, last night, it didn't go well with me, bro. Please pray for me. Nobody says it. So we pretend that everything is okay. As far as sex is concerned, everybody is okay. But this is not the case. That is the second point. And then the third point is, traditionally, the African religion doesn't talk about sex openly, especially to children, because we say that nobody teaches a child to know God. As our sisters said, the children are even thriving far, far better than we are. So because of that, we are silent, because we know that for a child, he will automatically know about God. So we don't. When a person will automatically know about God, then why spend your energy talking about it? So, Madam Nelly, let me remain here for others to talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Please, again, just a gentle reminder, can we please mute our audios till we've been called to speak so that it doesn't interrupt? But thank you so much. That was so interesting. It's true, I've never actually thought about that we call it private parts. If we call it private parts, then it means that it's private business, so it's not in the public. So that's really true. I've jotted that down. And Professor Perko also talked about how even our pastors, even the people who lead us, do not express themselves and talk about their issues. Elders and deacons don't let us know what exactly is even happening with them. So how will we be able to relate? Because we see it as if it's something, everybody's perfect. So if you say your issue, so like you're the only one facing the issue. And also our background, our traditional, where we are coming from in our culture also has a huge impact on why we do not discuss sex in the church. Thank you very, very much. Please, I hope Reverend Simon Ampofo is here. Reverend, please, if you are here, can you give me a wave by saying hi so that I know?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Welcome. So
Thanks.
the next person, I'll give you a short brief because I know you joined. I don't want you to feel left out. So we've been talking about sex and the church, and you are the next person to tell us why the church does not discuss sex. So for everybody, Reverend Simon Ampofo is the founder and general overseer of Gracefields Chapel, a ministry marked by divine grace and favor. He's been in Christian leadership for over 30 years and an active pastoral service for about 25 years. He's an astute teacher and preacher of the gospel and an author of 3 books. Identifying the names of the books are so that we get it when we are done. Please, everybody get your copies of the book. Identifying Great Opportunities, Back to Eden, and Drop That Yam. Drop That Yam sounds very interesting. I have to get one. And he's married with 2 kids. So we will let him tell us why he believes we do not talk about sex in the church. Why is it that in church we are not able to express ourselves about sex? So Dr. Ampofo, please.
Thank you very much, Nelly. I think that so far you can see you are doing a very good moderating work.
Thank you.
God bless you. That's excellent. I think that the earlier speakers have given their points as to why they think this issue of sex is not talked about from the church's perspective. And I want to look at it from a pastor's perspective. And I want to throw in my first bombshell, and that is the fact that I think that when it comes to sex, most pastors or most leaders are guilty themselves. And when you are guilty of something, it's difficult for you to express it. If you yourself do not succeed when you are a young person, you did not live a very exemplary life, then it becomes very difficult for you to jump into the pulpit and hypocritically start telling people to do the right thing. And so sometimes what happens is that pastors will prefer to be very quiet.
Can you please do one? I'm so sorry to cut in. Please, those whose audios are on, as soon as your audio comes on, we can't hear clearly. Can we please mute it? Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that whenever you feel guilty or you feel ashamed of what you have done in the past, as probably a young person growing up, you yourself couldn't keep your relationship healthy, then it becomes very difficult for you then to jump into the pulpit and start talking about sex issues, because then you find that you feel that you are a hypocrite dealing with the issue. You remember the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, and God got to them and asked them where they are. They said, Bible says they hid themselves because they were ashamed. All right. Of course, it might not have been sex, but the whole idea of sex is something that people are ashamed to talk about, especially if yourself have not done the right thing in the past. So I think that what will encourage the pastors or the church to talk about is when we ourselves become good examples of sexual practices and habits. Then we have the confidence, the boldness, and then the backing of heaven to comfortably and confidently talk about it. So that, for me, probably is one of the first reasons why a lot of pastors shy away from the subject matter of sex. If they were going out previously and they didn't keep their sex relationship healthy, how then do they come and tell the young people to make sure they do the right thing? So that's the first example. The other example, the other reason probably could be ignorance. Also, especially when you have been a Christian for a very, very, very long time, you were a greenhorn, you kept yourself very pure, quite opposite to the first point, and yet very true. You actually got into marriage as a virgin with very little experience to share. And so what do you actually know about sex? And unfortunately, let's say that the church has been silent about it, and that has made a lot of pastors very ignorant. And so they have very little experience. He himself did not have a lot of sexual escapades when he was young. He became born again at 15, led a very holy life. So by the time he became a Christian and a pastor, he has very little experience to share on this issue of sex. And so you will better speak about other things like faith, holiness, getting ready to go to heaven, and stuff like that, than to speak on the subject matter of sex. He hasn't got a lot of experience and much to share on the subject matter. So I think that that is also one of the reasons why the church sometimes gets very silent on the subject matter of sex. Finally, I also want to talk about a lack of biblical understanding of what sex is about. I think that a lot of people cannot look into scripture and find very relevant scriptures that can explain the issues, sexual challenges that we face today. You know, some of the things that are coming up with sex is very modern. The issue of sexuality, lesbianism, homosexuality are modern trends, more or less. And so some people cannot get into the Bible to find very relevant scriptures that seem to explain the modern challenges that we have with sexuality and sex. And so if that is the case, then they will not try or attempt at all to talk about the issue. But the truth of the matter is that the Bible has got a lot to talk about sex, and if you can take time to look into the Bible, I believe there are many relevant scriptures we can use to explain the modern phenomenon and the issues that are coming up with sex in our day. But I believe that, I also don't want to talk long, but I believe that these three reasons will be my initial comment as to why the church is silent on sex. The issues about sex today is very different from the issues about sex probably 50 years ago. And the things that are coming up, it needs a lot of research and understanding for the average pastor to be able to address the issues. So I believe without a shadow of doubt that this probably and many others probably will be the reason why a lot of pastors and the church generally is quiet about the issue of sex.
Thank you so much. That was also powerful. So what I got from this is that we have pastors who, from past experiences, had so much experiences and like just was different, right? Some were wayward and then changed, and then some also had a lot of different experiences. Then we have the ones who married as virgins, so didn't have enough, haven't experienced as much or haven't gone through a lot of things. So you can't teach what you don't know. So that's also one. And then another thing was also with the modern challenges and laws on sexuality and same-sex marriage and all those things. And as much as our Bible is ever living, ever relevant, sometimes we need to do a lot of research in order to get exactly what we need in this modern state, in our modern world. So thank you so very much. That's what I learned. I'm sure everybody has got different points, but those are the points that really stood out to me. And what I like doing when I'm moderating is I like mentioning the names of people who are here so everybody feels seen. And so even though your videos are off, I can feel your presence here and I know you are here. We are 30 people now, so this is great. Reverend Simon Ampofu, who just spoke, Ejewa, Alexander J, Ben Tando, Ben Kutu. I know Dean is Professor Kwesi Preko. Someone is joining now, Arthur, welcome. E.N. Bonsu, Rico, there are too many people, but everybody here, welcome. You haven't missed out on much if you just joined us. We are talking about the topic of sex in the church, and we just delved into why the church does not talk much about sex. So, if you question, throw it in so that we can. If your audio is on, kind of mute it. Kindly mute your audio so that you're able to hear everything. All right. So I'll ask the first question that is in the group. Oh, I see that my fiance is also here. So hi, Bernard. I'm glad you're here. We're going to learn so much. So welcome. We have a lot to learn today. So welcome. Thank you for joining. Okay. So our first question that has been put in the group by Benjamin Okutu is, should we as young people talk about sex with our mates? And if yes, how do we go about it? But I know that that is going to be part of our second part, the second part of our evening, because we'll be talking about when should the youth learn about the topic, before marriage or in marriage. Well, I'll still ask your question because you've asked it now. So please, any one of the panelists can take this. Please, when should we as young people talk about sex with our mates? Because they are the people who we are comfortable talking with. But sometimes it's kind of weird if you go to your mom and you're like, oh, mommy, I want to talk about sex. Like, she'll be like, what are you talking about? So we find it very difficult to talk to our parents sometimes about sex. So should we talk to the youth or our mates about sex? And if yes, how do we go about it? How should we talk to them about sex? Susa, Reverend Ampofo, and Professor Yes, please.
Okay, probably let me start and let the professor come in. I think it's healthy when young people discuss the issues about sex. But probably what is important is, who am I talking to? Who is my friend? And who am I engaging in this discourse with? It's very important for young people to select carefully who their friends are. Right. Now, you must choose your friends than your friends choosing you. And so you always have to go in for very mature people.
Oh, Reverend Simon Ampofo, I have muted everybody, so would you please unmute yourself, just you? I have muted everybody, so if you could unmute yourself, just you, that would be great. Okay, I don't know if he can hear me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Right. So what I was saying is that I'll just start by saying that it's healthy for young adults to talk about sex. There's nothing wrong with the idea of you sharing your ideas about sex with your friends. But here is the challenge. You must select your friends carefully. You must choose your friends. Don't just allow anybody to be your friend, so that you know that this is a mature person. This is a person who fears the Lord, a person who loves the Lord, and his ideas about sex is healthy and biblical. But if you go around on social media, you meet anybody on the street and you start sharing ideas about sex with him, you can be sure that you'll be very polluted, you'll be adulterated, and you end up being confused. I think that a lot of young people are confused because of who they are talking to. Again, I refer to the Genesis 3:11. When the Lord came to the garden, he asked Adam and Eve, who told you you are naked? Who told you you are naked? Now that question is so relevant even in our day, because the point is that who you speak to inform the ideas and the knowledge that you have concerning sex or every other issue. So it's very important you are careful who you are speaking to, because that person could adulterate you, confuse you, or rather make you a better person. So yes, sometimes young people can get together, Christian young friends can get together and share about the issue of sex. But be careful who you are talking to, otherwise you could be very adulterated.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Mrs. D'Souza talking. I think the earlier speaker did justice to the topic. For the youth, I want to ask a question. It's a rhetorical question. I don't need an answer. But I am sure you've been through schooling. So you move from one grade to the other until you are even in the university. We have level 100, 200, up to level 400. Now, I can imagine that trying to do algebra when you are in grade 5 will be very confusing. So confusing that if you don't take care, you will think math is too difficult. Math is not fun at all. So the issue of sex, I think we need to really operationalize or classify what we mean by sex. So the youth, what can you talk about maybe at the age of 19, 15, just getting ready to marry? dating and maybe going through counseling for marriage? What can you talk about? We've had people in the counseling rooms, Christians, who do not even know the real issue of how to have sex. They don't know it. And that, I think, is a mistake on the part of the church, because they've been let me say, brought up, and also the preaching has gone on so much that they think, yes, to want to have sex is just as evil as to think about it. To think about it, to have sex, and to have sex is just as evil, because the Bible warns us, because trying to talk about it continuously in terms of maybe trying to picture it can also bring things in your mind, and then it can end up in lust. So yes, the youth need to talk about sex, but it should be in degrees. What kind of information would you want to have at a certain point in time that will not become too much for you to make you fear sex, or push you further into the desire to have sex? So this is where, so what the church is doing now is that it's like giving the bite a little at a time. So the issue of masturbation, homosexuality, things like that, we start. But I think that the church should we should structure ourselves so that we find out what information to give to the youth. When you say youth, some churches say from maybe 15 to 30 or something, to give to the youth that will be age appropriate, or let me say, right for them just before, because you don't also need to awaken love until the time is due. So this is my stake on this. For the question the person asked, yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Please, Professor Perko can go ahead, and then Dr. Dodoo will give us his take as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, please.
So the question has been, is the youth permitted, mate-wise, to discuss sex problems or sexual brokenness with my classmates? Okay, as my previous speakers have said, when you take the school as an example, every teacher is specialized in his or her area. We have a mathematics teacher, we have a geography teacher, we have an accounting teacher, we have a music teacher. So when you have a science problem and then you confront the music teacher, you are not sure to get the right solution. So I'm saying that your mates that you are asking, they might not be well experienced. So what you should do is that go to a married counselor or a mature person, your pastor who knows much about these sexual problems. And then the pastor, he or she can be of better help than your mates. You tell your mate will tell, let's say, her best friend. Her best friend will tell best friend. And then it goes like that, and then you don't find any solution. When you contact people who are not matured, the example that I'm going to give, for example, will happen. I have a problem with, for example, masturbation, and then I tell my friend I know is a very good Christian. So all that the person tells me, you must overcome it. You have the power to overcome it. You have to rebuke it. And then give me some few biblical verses. Go and memorize this. You memorize and memorize and memorize. The problem is still pervasive, it's still there. So get to a more mature person. I think this is a shortcut to the solution, not your colleagues. Go to the right person and the problem will be solved. That's what I think. Thank you very much.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. I hope I'm not muted again. Thank you, Ebenezer, for letting me know that I was muted. I didn't know I was really talking. It turns out I was muted. So thank you. Dr. Dodoo, please give us shortly the reason why the church is not talking about sex, and then after you also give your take on the question. Please, you have the
All right. Since my the teacher's wife is here, let me give her the opportunity first to say a word or two on it, and then I'll also come with the rest.
Well, I think I agree with all the speakers. The reason why I think we have been silent on is also because our background, like Mrs. Sister said, where we are coming from, we hardly hear our moms and our dad talking about this. And that is how we grew up, and that is what we are also giving to our kids. Like you said, Sister said, when yesterday it happened, we were watching a movie and there was a scene that was talking about, I think it was some reason why somebody became gay. And my almost 8-year-old was standing there and he didn't get the attention. I said, go. And he said, Mommy, why? I said, no, I don't want you to hear what they're going to say. It's like she was asking me questions. Why she didn't listen to what they are saying? I said, you know. And so I think it's basically where we are coming from. That is my take on that. So please go ahead.
Right, thank you so much. Right, I have to say that our able panelists have punched holes into what a list I prepared. I have 10 lists of why, and they've taken almost about 7 of them out. So Reverend, Prof, and Sister, you've done a good job. You've punched hole into all my legs, so I have to really be canceling some of them. But still, there are 1 or 2 left. Let me quickly go to those ones. One is that the church is silent because we feel that the answers we find in the Bible are outdated. As Mrs. D'Souza was quoting something from the book of Song of Solomon, right? And I mean, when you look at those times, when they were going out there, it was in the garden, in the vineyard. Nowadays, we are in the technology world, right? We are in the kind of Facebook, digital, you know, all those kind of platforms. So in fact, we don't really know how the Bible still handle this topic. And then they're like, okay, if I'm not too sure, as Professor Prekun says, if you're a mathematics teacher, you don't go trying to answer a geography question. You keep to your area. So they don't want to do that. So that is one, I think, is the issue. Then again, I also think that the church is such that we don't really know whether the Bible, you know, really deals with the subject. It's always, I mean, you always hear on the pulpit, don't fornicate, don't commit adultery. Of course, homosexuality, we frown on it. But we don't really dive into it and give reasons. And we think, you know, it's not a spiritual issue. We think it is, you know, I see the church only want to solve the spiritual needs of the human, okay? You know, as human, we are spirit, I mean, soul and body. And we see sexuality as something to the body, to the flesh. And the Bible is saying that live, you know, after the spirit, so that you can overcome, you know, the flesh desire. So already, you know, the fact that the sex is got to do with the body, it is relegated to the background, and it is a no-go area. The better you say, I mean, better. And as Reverend also said, and the people themselves, they don't want to show their incompetency in that area. So if there are many topics they can preach on Sunday morning, why do you want to go to a controversial area? I mean, if you don't take time, all your congregation will be leaving the church because they'll brand you, I mean, Pastor Sex, or Pastor Love, you know. They'll brand you, you know. So we don't want to go to such areas. And then I also come to what the Prof said. Prof also said that, well, it is private. And once it is private, it should be left to be private. And I think these are really a true point. One more before I just go. I also wrote here that since sexual issues seem such as overwhelming topic, you know, they are not talking about it because there's so much which they themselves don't understand. For example, most of the literature to talk about sex and human sexuality, feelings as to body, how the body responds and everything, you realize that academians or maybe experts, counselors, and also, you know, psychologists or maybe gynecologists, those who have studied the body, they come in. And then the church, they make us know that we are dealing with spiritual issues and this is not a spiritual matter. So they don't want to go there. And here I am taking a book which is written by a non-pastor. Already, I call it secular. So why would I learn something from a secular book and apply it to my life while I go to the church? So you see, we are all struggling, and this is the issue. So there's a little take on it. And then to the question, I say my panelists have really done a good job to it. So let me leave it for here. Maybe the other next question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Dr. Dodoo. So I have 2 questions here. The other one I'll leave till we are done with the next part because it really does address it. So Victor Kumbo, I hope I pronounced your name right. If I butchered it, please forgive me. Victor's comment is that I don't think the church is completely silent about sex. The church is quite vocal about sexual immorality. And I think that is really true. The only time I have heard about sex most of the times has been about sex is bad, it is not right, it is wrong. We hear about sex a lot in the church. It's always that it's a sin. That's most of the things that we hear about it. So that was his comment. I don't know, maybe the panelists will have something to say about that. And then the second question is, will the church not have an easier role in sex education if parents played a primary role in educating teenagers and young adults? So basically, this person is saying the responsibility doesn't have to be on the church, but has to be on the parents. Maybe we're expecting too much from the church. Should it be parents talking to their kids about sex, or should the church also play a role in that? So please, again, maybe we'll go according to how the answers were answered at first. Sister Souza, if nothing would be said, then we move it to the other panelists. So please, Mrs. Souza.
All right, I do agree with the speaker or the contributor who said the church is actually not silent. That is a fact. I mean, instances where the church has come in is to say sex before marriage is bad, sexual immorality is bad, sexual perversion steals your joy, your future, everything is true. What boggles my mind is what exactly, so I think we are not listening to the youth. What aspect of sex do they want to hear from the, okay, let me say to know from the elderly, or to what aspect of sex, what education about sex? Is it really how to meet a woman and, excuse me to say, have intercourse? Is it the foreplay? Is it about sexual orientation? What aspect of sex do the youth want to know about from the elderly? So like I submitted before, it's in degrees. Maybe the church, because I have met actually Christian youth who are also confused about this issue. They'll tell you, Mommy, I have feelings towards a lady. I have feelings towards another guy. And it is real. But they can't bring it out because there are three issues. Let me veer off a little bit. Homosexuality is seen either as a psychological issue, biological, and the church says it is demonic. So these three stocks of knowledge are working together. How are we explaining to a young person, a young Christian who is having such problems? How do we explain this? So this is where it's like these stocks of knowledge are working together, and we've not come to terms with what the world is telling the youth, what we are saying. So let me say a young person who has thoughts or lust, sleeps and is thinking about sleeping with this girl, the person comes and we say it is demonic. The issue now is that how is the church going to, I don't have the answers, I'm just throwing the questions to ask. Yes, and the second speaker, I do agree, but I would say that the education about sex in the church has to be both directly and indirectly. Indirectly, meaning that yes, we should instruct other parents and let them also instruct their kids at home. Directly meaning that the church should organize discussion groups, retreats, sermons, classes, things like that, so that they will invite the elderly or people like I think one of the speakers said, people who are experienced or are professionals in that field to talk to the youth. I think we can do better than we are doing now as a church, and that's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Please, Reverend Ampofo, if you have any.
Yeah. I think the onus lies on society in general. I think that it's not just solely the responsibility of the church, but of everybody, including parents. They say charity starts at home. And you know, our sexuality begins actually when we are children. Right. When we start sucking breast from our mothers, that's when really the sexuality of every child or every person begins. He gets fixated to the mother's breast, and weaning from that becomes even difficult. Now, if that's at that stage, it is not handled well, it begins to have an effect later in the sexual expression of that person. And I tell you, many people are struggling at their latter years because of some of these challenges they had in their earlier times. So I believe that the responsibility lies right from the parents first. I am told that even the handling of the potty, teaching children not to poo-poo at the wrong places itself helps with restraining them and teaching them self-discipline. And if a child is able to sit on the potty at the right time and not to poo-poo around any time, it helps him to know when to release things and when not to release things. And it gives him that discipline to be able to know when to give expression to his sexual desires and when to withhold and to keep it in. And so right from our childhood days, our sexual expression begins. Then it gets to even the state of what we call the Oedipus complex, where a son begins to get attracted to the mother and the daughter gets attracted to the father. You know, at that stage, the parents could take advantage to explain to the daughter or the son, depending on who is getting attracted to, as to how to relate in these matters and how to grow up to become a responsible adult in society with sexual expression. But most of the time, we realize that parents check this responsibility. Then, as they go into their teen ages, the responsibility now comes to lie on the church to take the whole responsibility and deal with this whole sexual issue. And I believe that the church has a role to play, our educational institutions have a role to play, and then our parents, first and foremost, also have a role to play. If all these aspects of society and institutions will do their part, we are likely to have a very well balanced adult whose sexual expression will be healthy. But if we leave it just to the church, like the previous speaker, Mrs. Susan, was saying, I believe that not all pastors are psychologists. Not all pastors know much about biology and all the things, the changes that happen. So the pastor can at best look into scripture and bring you relevant examples of how the consequences of fornication and all those things. And that's as best as he can express himself. But the biologist in the school, in the institution, can go further to explain actually the chemical reactions and the bodily reactions that is taking place at every stage of the life of the young person. And the parents who are seeing the child at the early age form is also in a better position to know that my son or my daughter, if these are the things I talk to him about, it will help him to turn out very well as an adult. So I think that the onus lies on every one of us. It lies on the whole society to play their part, not just the church, not just the parents, not just the institutions, but all of us will have to play our part to bring up the total man to the place that God wants it to be.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that the second question has been exhausted. So let me say something about the first question. I think when Victor asked it, he says that the church is actually not silent. The church talks about sex. Actually, we are not saying that the church is talking 0% on sex. Most often we hear that the church talks about marriage, preparing for marriage, and then what to do during the marriage, etc. But hardly does the church talk about sex as the youth want to hear. Madam, you see that says what aspect of sex does the youth want to hear? The youth actually want to hear, when you meet a woman, how do you do the do? How do you walk your talk? This is what they want to hear. How do you begin it? Will you have your orgasm? What do you do to have your orgasm? And then what do you do after that? They want to hear. Does it matter the size of your manhood? If your manhood is about this size, what do you do? If it's about this size, what do you do? They want to hear all this. But hardly do we speak. Something like that once happened in our church. And then it has helped to cultivate this culture of silence. Once again, We were teaching marriage, and then one of the elders stood up and he wanted to help the youth. And I heard him say that when you meet your woman and then you begin in sex, do this. Just use your tongue and then go to the private part of the lady, lick here and there. So what you say, actually, now, this is the reason for the silence. I will not talk about it. What you say reflects you yourself. It is about you yourself. This is what you do. You say what you do. If you don't do it, then what are you saying it? Then you're not a good Christian. Then you are pretending. What you do, you bring it to the fore of the public. So people say that, hey, Pastor old man, is that what you have been doing? Using your tongue into your lady? That was the end. He nearly stopped church. So next time when he goes to a different church and they are talking about sex, what do you think he will do? He will either keep quiet or talk on the periphery, only on the periphery. It is that, okay, as we do, as a mother does, usually, when the child is going for marriage, do not let your husband be hungry. Learn always how to bath. They will not talk about anything, only this. And then the child goes to the marriage. We also have this experience in our churches. And then the ladies are complaining that they don't have the orgasm. They are leaving the marriage is breaking. So what do? Do we continue to be silent? Or do I offer myself as a sacrificial lamb? Talk about what I do. So that they laugh. This is what elder does. I say that, okay, Christ was a lamb. I also want to follow the footsteps of Christ. Even if they laugh at me, I have said what they should do. This is very difficult. And then nobody is ready to take the challenge. I don't know. Let me see whether Reverend is ready to take the challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay, please, Dr. and Mrs. Dodoo, are you ready to take up the challenge? The question has been thrown to you.
Oh, Prof. This is a very good example. We can't stop laughing. Thank you so much. Right. That's all, Mrs. Dodoo.
I think you really hit on the nail. I mean, what you say actually reflects you. If you go and you start teaching the practical aspect, you are marked, because I remember also in our church, my husband started, this has been on his heart all the time, like training the youth, trying to, groom them when to have a relationship. And he was marked as the love pastor, Anytime his name is mentioned, they kind of, that's what he always talk about. And so automatically he just backed down. But I think this is one of the most important things in our lives as human beings, to know when to enter into relationship, how we prepare ourselves actually makes us be able to stay in a marriage or go out of the marriage. Like you are talking, orgasm, I never heard about orgasm until recently, When I got married, I was like, before marriage, I never heard about it. I didn't even know that women were supposed to have, because I didn't read about it and nobody told me until I married. And it's like, somehow we were talking and, it came up and I was like, wow, is this it? I mean, is that how it is? And we realized that we didn't know. And so we didn't know. We want to tell the youth that it's possible to enjoy your marriage. It's possible to know the good side of the things, because we realized that most of the things that break marriage are all these little things that we shine away. And so I kind of think it is important that we say the truth. We don't hide behind the scene and, she tackle the subject shallowly, but they go to deep details and let the kids know that there's a possibility in this and in that, so that we all learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Dodoo has really touched on it. To the point, the church is not silent, but only condemns the negative aspect of it. I would say that this is somewhat debatable, right? Yes, it's true, they condemn it, fornicate, don't get don't adulterous and all that. But I see another issue in this case. What do I say? If they can easily talk about fornication, which is unmarried, sex before marriage, yeah, and then also adultery, which is sex, but then not with your married partner, but with somebody else. Okay, they can condemn, and they are able, comfortable to say it on a Sunday morning on the pulpit, no problem. Why don't, as Mrs. De Souza said, have a regular seminar or a class like we do for baptism? Anybody is going to be baptized, they have baptismal classes. You go through the step 1, 2, 3. When it comes to new converts, we have a new convert class. We teach them 1, 2, 3 to the level. When it comes to even doctrines, okay, we have doctrinal classes whereby we handle these things. I expect the church to also have classes on these topics: orgasm, wetting your bed, masturbation, and stuff like that. You see, when somebody is feeling, let me personally use myself. Growing up at an early stage, I was very confused. I didn't understand what is wet, and wetting your bed. And I thought biologically there was something wrong with me. Nobody taught me. My father wouldn't dare talk about such a thing at home. I can't, of course, also ask my mom. But then it was a biological thing which was coming. Okay? And then nobody tells me. So I was like, something's wrong. Maybe I thought maybe I will never even have a child. So I was like, but then one day there was on campus, some, a kind of counseling experts came around. They had a program on campus and they were talking about this. And one of the panelists mentioned this, that it is a normal thing to expect. Because when your body develops and you get to that age of maybe the adolescent age, biologically things are coming and you are piling up. So the body inside psychologically creates this thing to overload, to get off some of the excess load. So it's a normal, so it was like a big, heavy weight has left me ever since. Then I started reading about these things. So in fact, I'm saying that, yes, though the church is not silent, the kind of topics we want them to handle, they are not really handling that. So this is what I want to say. Thank you. I'll leave the second point.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all our panelists. I'm just having a field day here. Everything is so amazing and we're getting so much.